Cisco's solution for AAA is Cisco's Identity Services Engine. So the reason why you want to be concerned about AAA, which is authentication, authorization, and accounting, is to control connectivity to your physical network infrastructure. So before you, a device, a person, is allowed to connect to the physical network infrastructure, who are you and what device are you using? That's authentication. Authorization is, okay, now that we know who and what you are, here's where you're permitted to connect to. And the final A, accounting, is here's when you have authenticated a log, which is important when trying to do, say, forensics and figure out who connected and disconnected during what times. That's the accounting piece of that. So that's AAA in a nutshell. And that pertains to wired infrastructure or wired connectivity, wireless connectivity, and remote access VPN. Okay. Cisco's solution for AAA is Cisco's Identity Services Engine, which, as you can see there, offers quite a few services. Within the context of this presentation, we will talk about just a few of those things. And if you are interested in knowing more about the other services that ICE offers, just reach out and we'll be glad to have a chat. Okay, so the basics of AAA, what most people are interested in is secure wired, secure wireless, and secure VPN access. So wired and wireless is done through what's called 802.1x. And so that controls connectivity, whether wired or wireless, by user authentication. You may require a certificate. It may be that only certain devices are permitted to connect, or if you want to go further, you can go into compliance and talk about the status that a particular endpoint is before it's permitted connectivity. VPN access relies on radius, but it can also go through some device profiling and compliance as well. And then, you know, if you're talking about things that can authenticate, 802.1x requires a supplicant on a device in order to cooperate. And some devices, say IoT devices, do not have an 802.1x supplicant. So for those type of devices, if they need to be on your network, then you can authenticate those devices by MAC address. Next, guest access. So as you're well aware, it's not a good idea just to open guests for anybody to join your guest network without any sort of registration or authentication. So there are a few ways that ICE can help to control who has access to your guest network. One is a self-registration portal. Most of you have probably seen those. You know, who are you, what kind of device you're going to have, or are you using? And then you'll have to read a user acceptance policy or a acceptable use policy to make sure you're read to say what you're not misbehaving on their guest network, and then you're permitted on. Or if you want to be more stringent, there can be approval given by either the Identity Services Systems Administrator or by a sanctioned sponsor, where you just sort of sit in a lobby until somebody allows you access. Asset visibility and enforcement is the sort of the new name for profiling. What that means is, okay, what kind of device is this? So some examples of policies that may fit into this are, only company-owned endpoints are given full access, or only iOS or Android devices. Those are assigned to a guest segment exclusively. You may have IoT devices, and you might want to assign those just to an IoT segment. You see the other examples there where you may be given access depending on what type of device this is. And then finally, a BYOD policy, of course, is where employees, et cetera, would bring in their own devices to connect to your production network. So what really is the difference, though, to differentiate between guest access and BYOD or asset enforcement? So guest access ideally would really only have access to the internet, and that's it. No corporate resources or no production resources, if you will. And bring your own device really is meant to have connectivity permit connectivity or selective connectivity to your production network and, of course, the internet as well. And asset enforcement can go either way, right? You might decide all mobile devices go into guest network, and then otherwise they are permitted into your production network if they follow the other policies. And then device administration is just a means of controlling access to your network infrastructure. So instead of relying on local authentication to administer your routers and your switches and your firewalls, that's all good and fine until somebody leaves, and then you have to change all of those. Instead, if you use centralized device administration, that can tie into, say, Active Directory, where maybe an Active Directory group is permitted to administer these network devices. That way, if somebody leaves, you only need to disable their user account in one place, and you don't have to go around and rename everything.